Beep, 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 beep. Hello, good peeps, and welcome back to the Court of the Edijester. I thought we'd take some time this morning to have a look at the BMA, not the British Medical Association, as they are known. Right, before we start, if you can subscribe to my Substack, that would be really helpful. If you want to join us on the Winning Mindset, then September, starting in about a week or so. It starts on the 17th, so please do come and join. Links are in the doobers as usual. What have we got for you today? Well, I thought, seeing as I got an email yesterday from the YouTubes saying that I'd had a copyright notice asking for my material to be removed from the interwebs, and specifically the YouTubings. So it came from that bloke Raphael, who I did a piece on last week. I don't know whether you saw it. I hope you did. It was one of the LGBTQ plus LARPers hiding in the BMA. That's what I call him now. LARPer. Because I don't know what the bloke's about. I really don't. Anyway, I did a piece on him in which I said that I thought he'd make a fine doctor, but he seems to have got himself involved in all sorts of political stuff, especially around trans, which is doing him no good at all. Apparently, he's not happy that I used his picture. So he put in a copyright thing. Get it taken down. It's my picture and all that. And I'm not taking it down. So there we go. Because YouTube have said this is fair use. Well, if it's fair use, I don't have to take it down. And I could have easily used another one, even if I had to, and I'm not going to. So I thought, well, we'll have another look at the BMA, seeing as he's engaged, as they say, because they sent me his email address. I'm so tempted to publish it, but I'm not going to. Let's be fair here. He's probably busy designing all sorts of nonsense around trans children. So I thought we'd have a look at the BMA. Here they are, look, the BMA, right? So we're going to have a look at the BMA. Well, I found their equality and diversity guidance under inclusive care of trans and non-binary patients. So this can be quite interesting. Now, it says here, this guidance aims to explain first steps and best practice in providing a supportive service to transgender, trans and non-binary patients, including patients who present with gender incongruence and or gender dysphoria. So everyone then. So it's service to transgender, trans and non-binary patients, including patients who present. So if it's including patients who present with gender incongruence and or dysphoria, there must be others who don't have gender incongruence or dysphoria. So therefore, it's aimed at everybody. Doesn't make any sense from the start. So they've then gone on to talk about it's important that all groups with the patient population have access to appropriate, timely, high-quality healthcare, blah, 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 blah. We acknowledge that many trans and non-binary patients have had negative experiences of accessing healthcare in the past and continue to do so. And they're using the National LGBT Survey 2018 captured data about people's experiences. So this survey was done in 2016, but it actually was published in 2018, which is, we're going back a long time. People are now wise to the trans and non-binary grift. That's what they're not taking into account. So they said 40% of trans respondents who had accessed or tried to access public healthcare services reported having experienced at least one or a range of negative experiences. So this entire survey is a nonsense anyway. It's based on false premise, the false premise being there is such a thing as trans and non-binary. So that was of interest to me when I first saw it, and I thought it'd be interesting to you. I'll put the links to this downstairs so you can have a look. It says, and then they said this really weird sentence: outside of trans-related care, such as gender clinics, trans and non-binary patients have the same healthcare needs as other patients. What? Right? Outside of trans-related care, such as gender clinics. Well, the whole point is that there shouldn't be such a thing as trans-related care. Right? The gender clinics should be providing mental health support, but that's all they should be providing. And non-binary is just a made-up thing. So it's really odd to see an organisation like the BMA that is so obsessed and so powerful in fighting for the materialist and realistic natures of pay and conditions, for example, for doctors, should be educating people in such gobbledygook. It doesn't make any sense. We also urge all doctors to take advantage of opportunities for continued professional development to advance their understanding of best practice in working with trans and non-binary patients. We don't want our doctors in la la land, right? And we don't want them pandering to people with batty belief systems. It's that simple. The advice contained here is not intended to be exhaustive. God, there's more of it? Are you mad? There are a number of complex issues. They're not. There is no complex issues. It's just nonsense. You're not well. I'm Napoleon. Right? How's Josephine? She's fine. You seeing her later? Not tonight. Right? So we're not doing it. Yeah. Get it? Right. Okay. This is good. Terminology. The terminology used in this area is complex, changing, and can cause distress if not used appropriately. I don't care. Really, I don't care. Doctors and medical students are encouraged to respect and reflect the language choices. So constantly examine yourself for trans inclusiveness. So transgender, they've got down as, transgender and trans are umbrella terms to describe people whose gender identity is not the same as or does not sit comfortably with the sex they were assigned at birth. That's the BMA talking about sex assigned at birth. What a load of nonsense. Trans people may describe themselves using one or more of a wide variety of terms. Yeah, I've got one or more of a wide variety of terms as well. And then they say transsexual. The term transsexual was used in the past as a diagnostic term. Yeah, you know why? It's a paraphilia. And in legislation, it is still used by some people to describe themselves, although many prefer other terms such as trans or transgender. How can an umbrella term describe an individual? I said this before. Transgender is like, collective noun time, innit? Like vegetable. Who are you talking about? The sprouts or the parsnips? I say it all the time. Non-binary, here we go. The spectrum of gender identities or expressions that fall outside the historically typical gender binary, masculine and feminine. And this includes those who do not identify as either a man or a woman. Who cares whether they identify as a man or a woman? This is the BMA. So it's got nothing to do with medicine and everything to do with obfuscating nonsense, right? That's what it's about. Oh, gender identity expression changes over time in a different context. Yeah, you're talking about personality and fashion, right? Or agender, who people who do not find themselves having any particular gender identity. So again, everybody, right? They're talking about everybody. They think they're talking about everybody. Remember, it's totalizing. This belief system is totalizing. Gender identity, every individual's personal internal sense of their own gender. No. How dare you? How dare you put your batty belief system onto everybody? Gender expression, presentation, the way in which a person expresses their gender identity, typically through appearance, clothing, and behavior. Fashion, then. Fashion, yeah? That's all it is fashion. Gender incongruence, discrepancy between a person's gender identity, their sex assigned at birth, and their primary, secondary sex characteristics. Gender incongruence is now a specific diagnostic term in ICD-11. Further information is available here. Yeah, the problem is, though, it was made up, wasn't it? Like the other diagnostic terms that were made up. In the organisation that you still quote, WPATH. Going way back to the Beaumont Society and the nonsense spouted by people who simply wanted to make sure they could get their titty skittles paid for in America. That was what it was about, getting the insurance companies to pay for it. Gender dysphoria, another diagnosis that actually doesn't exist. And they say here gender dysphoria is not in and of itself classified as a mental illness. Really? Untreated, gender dysphoria can severely affect the individual's quality of life and potentially lead to mental ill health, such as depression or anxiety. They're doing the same thing as has been done before, which is they don't recognize that gender dysphoria, as they call it, or, wanting to cut bits off yourself and all the stuff that comes with it, is a symptom of a greater mental problem. So they're ignoring all the current thinking. Crazy. Then they go on to talk about transition, which is nonsense, retransitioning and detransitioning. They also, I love the last one here. Some older trans people may retransition because they are concerned that they may not receive appropriate support in care settings or for end-of-life care. Yeah, that's because when they get dementia, they forget it because it's all made up. Isn't it? That's what it's about. Nonsense. Providing inclusive support for all trans and non-binary patients, right? So, doctors should be aware that not all transgender and non-binary patients will experience dysphoria or distress due to their gender identity and should avoid automatically attributing particular health concerns or conditions to a patient's gender identity. In other words, a patient that comes to you who thinks there's something they're not, i.e. Jesus, or whatever it may be. I'm just trying to think, who would I want to be if I wasn't me? Who would I like to? I'd like to identify as Elon Musk, because I can have his money, right? So if they come to you and they go, I'm Elon Musk, I'm Napoleon, you'd immediately go, funny farm, come on. Let's get you some help, kid. Not here. It says, so if they come to you and they say that they're trans, that's got nothing to do with their gender identity. You just have to accept it as a fact, despite the fact we know that the vast majority of them have comorbidities or are simply fetishists. This is absolutely tone deaf, right? So you go and have a look at that as well. I'll put the link downstairs. And then there's another glorious page, which I found, which is why we need LGBTQ plus teaching in medical education. LGBTQ patients need better care. Do we? I don't. I get perfect care, and the NHS are absolutely brilliant whenever I come across them. What are we talking about here? LGBTQ plus. That's what they're talking about. So this is about a group of people who don't actually have anything in common, and the TQ plus, well, the two, we know what it is. The Q is absolutely something else, but they never tell us what the plus is. So as a queer medical student, says Jessica Cox, in 2024, I know LGBTQ plus patients need better care, and LGBTQ plus and other doctors LGBTQ plus and other doctors need to feel supported to provide that care. No. They need to be examined. They need to be investigated by the GMC if they buy into this bollocks. Oh. While healthcare has improved for LGBTQ plus patients in recent decades, I know from research as well as personal experience there's still much work to be done. This is especially true for trans people. Here we go. See? So force team the LGBTQ plus with, everybody into the same group and then go, this is especially true for trans people. And then here we get the absolute banger. Absolute banger. People self-identifying as LGBTQ plus have always existed. No, they haven't. No, they haven't. All right? It's that simple. This is a made up title to enable an identification into a group which is a cultural and political subgroup who want special rights for the people in it. That's what it is. They make up a significant portion of the population, 3.2%, according to the 2021 census, which we know was flawed. So they're using flawed data. And by the time I am practicing, this will likely have increased further. No, it won't. The number of gays and lesbians has been constant for a very long time indeed, probably for evolutionary reasons that we don't quite understand. So you can make up all you like, but the best thing about this is the idea that TQ plus has got anything to do with the others. Nothing whatsoever, right? But the absolute nadir of this is the pure homophobia of the line, people self-identifying as LGBTQ plus. You don't self-identify as gay, madam, young lady, you don't self-identify as gay. Okay? Or do you think that during my school time and during my early life that I would have self-identified out of it? You're a disgusting homophobe. So it says LGBTQ plus people have the same health needs as the general population. Great, fine, thanks. That's it. That's all you need to know. That's all we need to know. As well as needs more specific to their identities. An identity doesn't have a health need. An identity does not have a health need. You're nuts. Sexual health, IVF, and mental health needs. Well, that's not specific to us, right? Mental health needs. We need more mental health needs. You know why? Because gay men are many of them are drug-addled alcoholics, and they live lives of absolute debauchery. I know that. I did, because I did. I partied hard until I was in my 50s. You know why? Because I had no responsibilities whatsoever. I can do what the hell I like, and I'm responsible for my own life. It's that simple. We're not special. We're not special. So what you're saying here is, which is just utterly bizarre, is that we need more specific care based on identities such as mental health needs and sexual health. I tell you this, young lady, when AIDS hit and nobody would help us, it was the lesbians that sat by our beds. It was the gay men that began to campaign in order to achieve some sort of help with the HIV crisis. And we did that by understanding the reality of who we were, not listening to garbage like this. And this, ladies and germs, is on the BMA website. And it was published on the 21st of February, 2024. They are absolutely clueless. I'll leave you to go and have an explore. So I'm sorry you're upset about me using your picture, Raphael, but probably not a good idea to put it out in public, is it? We've got another one here, as you can see. Student Jessica Cox. Well, I wish you well in your practice, Jessica, and hope that you'll grow up before you leave. But that's just me. All right, folks, I shall see thee later. Have a great day. Ha ha! The BMA.